Hello and welcome to another edition of the book review here at CCXP Exam Simulator. Today's a very special video. It's actually kind of an off-the-cuff video as well. It's Sunday, April the 19th of 2020 right now, and I literally about say 45 minutes ago saw a video that Dan LOK had posted, and the video was talking through a few things that I thought these two particular books would be worth mentioning. One of them is called Predictable Success by Les McKeown, and the other one's called Traction by Gino Wickman. The video that I saw by Dan LOK was called How to Grow Your Sales and Business Faster, and he talks about a hierarchy, if you will, of 9 different types of entrepreneur based on the dollars that they're bringing in, the revenue they're bringing into their business. And he gives advice and coaching through this little group called the Dragon 100. And there were certain points in the journey of the entrepreneurs through the different stages where I realized some of the things that Dan was saying they needed to know would actually relate directly to these two books. So one of the ones that he brought up was something called the operator, and he said when you reach the operator, you're typically doing between $1 and $3 million of business a year, and the big question that you should be asking yourself is, how do I apply process and structure? Now, the book Predictable Success, I would recommend that if you're at this stage, or if you're before this stage, all the way down to maybe the founder level, this is the book that you should be reading to help you with this. Now, the reason why is very interesting. It all goes down to how companies are built and then the life cycle of a business as well. So this little graphic I'm going to show you here kind of explains this. So what the book Predictable Success talks about is how there are 3 personality types in business. There's the visionary, who is kind of normally the person that comes up with the idea for the business, has this wonderful vision about what it's going to look like, and then they typically partner with a personality type called the operator. Now, the operator is someone who just likes to get things done. They're very hands-on, and history has shown us that there are many examples of this dynamic duo starting a business. And so what happens is they'll start the company together and things will go really well, and then they'll hit this stage called whitewater, which you can see here on the top left of this little diagram. And the problem with when they hit whitewater is because there's not enough structure and there's not enough process, exactly what Dan's talking about at this point. And so this is where the third personality type comes in, called a processor. Processors are people that like to make sure things are done properly. You know, you adhere to checklists, you adhere to process. If you have too many of them, then your business can end up going too much in the other direction, where it ends up in what the author of Predictable Success calls treadmill, which you'll see on the top right here. And treadmill is where you have too many processes, everything becomes bureaucratic, and that can ultimately kill a business. But also not having enough process and structure can also kill a business, so you have to find a really good balance. So that's why I recommend this book, because at this stage which Dan's talking about, which is also a very dangerous stage for a lot of businesses, sometimes they can hover around there and then die. It's very, very important to make sure that you understand the kind of things that can go on behind the scenes, the different personality types, and also the overall life cycle of a business. So that's why I recommend this. So the next part of the video that Dan mentions is called the Innovator. So this is the $30 million to $100 million bracket annually. And at this point, Dan says this is the point where the CEO should think about either hiring another CEO or a COO to run the business for them. Now, a really interesting book that is relevant to this is called Traction. Now, Traction is all about something called the Entrepreneurial Operating System, or EOS. There's even a book called What the Heck is EOS, if you want to get familiar with the gist of how it works. But basically, it's a whole way of reorganizing the business so that it can scale even faster when it gets to this point. The problem with any business when you scale it is that if there's small little cracks of things that aren't being done correctly, or what I like to call organizational debt, those things will expand and become magnified. So you want to make sure you're covering all bases. I actually am working with an organization right now that's using the EOS model, and The way that meetings are done has completely changed. The way that projects are aligned have completely changed. The way that we decide what we're going to do each quarter has completely changed. It's a much tighter way of running the business. Before we adopted Traction, I went ahead and talked to a number of other businesses that were using EOS and kind of got their perspective as well. But this is the right book to read when you're hitting that. I would even say maybe 15 to 20 million, not necessarily the 30 million threshold here that Dan mentions. And to the point that Dan makes in his video, what you typically would do is the CEO would move into a visionary position, and then they would bring in this person that runs everything into what they call the integrator role. And that way they can be free to focus on what a true visionary should be able to focus on, and look at new ways to innovate, find different things in the market they can look at. Whereas the integrator more is worried about the day-to-day running of the business. And if we go back to the predictable success example, the integrator is kind of like a good mixture of an operator and a processor. But they're there to really to protect the visionary so that they can use the energy that they've got to focus on the new areas of the business and innovating, and they're not being bogged down with 100 emails a day and day-to-day operations, when that really can be handled by the integrator. So these two books, I think, will really complement the video that Dan's made if your business is either in either of these areas, or maybe you're a consultant that helps businesses and you've got clients that are in those ranges. So I hope that was helpful. Like I said, this was a real ad hoc video. I normally do more in-depth book reviews than this, and I'd like to have told you a little bit more about those two books, but I think really the use cases are the most important things, and they really map well to the video that Dan made. So if you have any questions or comments, you can leave them in the YouTube video, or you can comment, email me at support@c6pexamsimulator.com, and I'll hope to produce some more content for you guys soon. In the meantime, take it easy.